When do we decide? How do we make choices? Do we base our choices on truth, or do we blindly act on faith? A man goes through life aimlessly, constantly rolling the dice, swept along by the wind. He never considers his beliefs and never really considers his actions. He simply acts, and does not know why he acts. He acts as if there is nothing to know, and nothing that can be known. Truth, falsity, and certainty are all the same to him. His is a blind faith. Then, one day this man takes a look around him. He takes stock of his surroundings. He asks, "Why am I here? What am I doing?" He suddenly throws the whole thing into question. After stumbling around for so many years, and breaking some bones in the process, he decides that he wants to know. He wants to know what he believes and why he believes it. He wants to know where he is and where he is going. The man now declares that there is no faith in him. Whilst before he did not care about certainty, now he says that without certainty he will have conviction in nothing. In doing so, the man is transformed. Whereas before he was a blind man, he now believes his eyes to be open. And whereas before he was simply an idiot, he is now either a fool, a hypocrite, or a liar. Does that seem harsh? It is nonetheless true. Why? Because while such a man has learned some important things about belief, he has not understood the most important parts. To insist that we can only have conviction once our knowledge is complete and certain, without any possibility of doubt, is to completely misunderstand the nature of belief, the nature of faith, and the nature of conviction. Most particularly, it is to misunderstand and assume that all faith is and must be blind faith. Let's outline what this means, then look at an example. We should indeed try to learn the truth. The difference between truth and falsehood is not arbitrary. Indeed, it is pivotal for living correctly and making the right choices. Yet, given the limited beings that we are, absolute and foolproof certainty is very hard to come by. And not only that, but even when faced with things that may certainly be true, we still have the ability to doubt, to deny acceptance, to withhold our belief from them. Nonetheless, even with this ever-present possibility, we must have convictions to make our way through life. And for this reason, therefore, we all need to have faith. So, let's bring this all together with an example. A man wakes up in the morning and goes to the fridge to get some food. It's a natural thing, even a casual thing. But it's nonetheless true that the man has so much conviction that the food won't kill him, that he's willing to bet his entire life on it. Now, if a keen and careful skeptic should happen to stand beside him, he could ask, "But how do you know that the food is safe? Are you absolutely certain?" "Of course it's safe," says the man. "But how do you really know?" replies the skeptic. "Have you done chemical analysis on the food to check that it hasn't been laced with poison? This food has been produced over a long process. You didn't watch its journey from farm to factory to store. What absolute proof do you have that this piece has not been poisoned somewhere along the line? Indeed, perhaps some sly assassin snuck into your home last night, injected the food with poison, and carefully snuck away." "Absurd," the man protests. "That's all just absurd." To which the skeptic retorts, "That might all sound absurd, but if you're being properly rational, you would have to admit that it is all still, technically, possible. And if you haven't yet proven otherwise, the question still stands. How do you know?" The man regards the skeptic with a furrowed brow for a moment, and after catching a mental break, responds, "I eat this food from my fridge every day. Everyone I know eats the same kinds of food from the same kinds of places, and, to my knowledge, there are no secret assassins who are out to murder me. And so while it's all technically maybe possible, come on, it's just so unlikely." "Ah, of course, but unlikely isn't the same as certain." And that's what it all comes down to. Quite right, likely and certain are not the same thing. Even very likely is not the same as certain. In the study of logic, they are categorically different. According to logic, likely must always mean at least a bit uncertain. There is still potentially room for doubt. So the skeptic says, "Are you willing to risk your whole life on an uncertainty?" And the man laughs, and before taking a big, happy bite, says, "I guess I'll just have to take that chance." The man has perceived something which is very natural to all of us. Yes, he is not absolutely certain. He has no way of fully checking. But still, he needs to eat. He's sure enough that he's willing to bet his life on it. He has his discernment, a likelihood, a chance, and the rest he takes on faith. Faith. The use of that word can already feel contrary to reason and truth, mostly due to the misunderstanding of what it means. Firstly, because faith is usually used in a religious sense, and so people assume that it is only religious. And secondly, because people think that faith must be purely unthinking and irrational. But that's not true. That is to assume that all faith is merely blind faith. But really, most faith is not blind faith, nor is faith only religious. We all use faith all throughout our lives. But what does this even mean? What is faith? According to the Cambridge Dictionary, faith is great trust and confidence in something. And trust really does capture the core of it. Faith comes when we put our confidence in something or someone, even if there is a possibility of doubt, when we lack final proof, or when there is a conceivable reason to reject it. Here is another way to conceptualize faith. We can picture a spectrum with conviction on one end and no conviction on the other. But what is conviction? It is defined as a strong belief, a firmly held belief. We here use conviction to mean a belief held so strongly that a person is willing to live by it. We can think of conviction as the point at which a person thinks, "Okay, I believe this thing, and even if there might be some reason somewhere not to believe it, I am nonetheless going to believe it enough to act and live as if it's true." And each one of us must reach this point. We must all reach this point and put stake in our convictions because, despite whatever doubts we might have, life compels us forward. And so we have a spectrum with conviction on one end and no conviction on the other. Now, between our knowledge and conviction, there is a gap. Some people cross that gap with no thinking at all. That is what we would call a truly blind faith. But really, most of the time, humans don't operate like that. Instead, we try to fill that gap. We know it's a gap of belief, and so we try to cross it with things worth believing. This is where we place our learning. Reasoning, evidence, experience, all of these build a bridge. And usually, the more certainty someone can build, the more secure they can feel in their conviction. In some cases, the certainty can go from 0 to 100 in a flash. For example, 2 + 2 = 4 seems to leave no room for doubt at all. Still, a gap always remains. A gap remains because even after much learning and years of experience, we might reach 80%, 90%, 99% certainty about something, but seldom truly reach 100. And even in such cases like 2 + 2 = 4, as absurd as it may sound, it is still possible for a man to withhold his acceptance of such a belief, and to deny it both to others and to himself. After all, we are not now modelling the facts themselves, but modelling the nature of belief. And in this model of belief, a gap always exists. There's always a potential gap between one's learning, their certainty, and their final conviction. And to bridge that gap, we use faith. If you like, that bridge, that's what faith is. But this is also why faith is a matter of the will. It is not merely intellectual. Given that conviction can always be withheld and the final certainty can always be doubted, a choice is made to build that bridge, sometimes more consciously than others. For different people, the threshold for that choice is in different places at different times. In some cases, maybe just 50% certainty is enough to commit to. Do you want to make this bet? In other cases, maybe 80%. Everything we've heard about Rome sounds great. Should we book a trip? And in other cases, some people will never choose to bridge certain gaps, even if it is shown to be 99.99% certain. Are you ready to face who you really are? And so, that's what faith is and how it functions. We learn through life, building up our certainty, and then we make a choice to place our trust in our convictions, despite our doubts, in order to move forward. Just think of the sheer number of things we have faith in. This food is safe. My car is going to start. The world isn't going to end tomorrow. Of course, because if we had to check and double check every possibility before we left the house, we would be paralyzed. Even in the intellectual sphere, faith is everywhere. All of our history has to be taken on at least some faith, because, well, none of us were there to see it for ourselves. People believe all kinds of scientific claims based on faith. Now, you might say that this is less true of the scientists themselves, if they are indeed testing and verifying everything for themselves, although, as a rule, science admits that it can never be 100% certain. But outside of that, everyone who says that they believe a particular scientific theory, without directly conducting their own tests and experiments, are certainly taking things on faith. Faith in the word of scientists, and faith that their claims have been researched and reasoned correctly. And this very faith transforms from theoretical to practical when we trust that these scientific theories shape how we approach things like health and medicine. Now, of course, this isn't to posit that every scientific theory is therefore wrong, or that we should disregard history, or that we should all assume that the world will end tomorrow. None of this is to assume that faith itself is bad, only to point out that faith exists. And if we are being honest, it exists in far more places than we might think. So then, the question is, what are we to make of this? If pretty much all of our ideas are based on faith, and all of our convictions require it, are truth and certainty just arbitrary? Of course not. Once we understand the relationship between faith, conviction, and certainty, the question becomes, how do we find beliefs that are worth putting our faith in? What is the difference between a strong belief and a weak one, a good one and a bad one? In a word, how do we learn the truth? Whilst we all have faith, there is a universe of difference between faith based on truth and faith based on falsehood. That is where the whole question of building our knowledge comes into play. What beliefs are really believable? Which ones have better reasons to support them? Indeed, if we have the time, how can we learn to use our reason correctly to sort through ideas? The admission of faith does not make this process any less important. Indeed, it is pivotal because truth is our guide to reality, and, in the end, it is ultimately reality that determines which actions we can take, which decisions will work, and which will not. And so, the point is not to neglect truth. Far from it. We absolutely should pursue truth. Truth that builds a stable bridge to our convictions. The point is that in our pursuit of truth, we will often reach points when a decision needs to be made before our quest for truth and certainty are completely satisfied. And hence, we need faith to live by. This is also why we can never be truly neutral in our beliefs. When we take our beliefs as a whole, there is no such thing as neutral, because everyone places their bets down on something. Everyone, at some level, says, I believe this so much, I'm going to stake my life on it. No one is ever truly apathetic. No one can be truly apathetic about the meaning of life, because every single person is living. A man might say that there are 1,000 different belief systems, each with competing claims. He might say that the arguments between these systems are so contradictory and so complex that he will not believe any of them, perhaps concluding that life and reality itself is chaos and that no truth really exists. He says he's neutral, but he is not neutral, because by withholding his consent to any universal system, he has therefore staked his life on his own system. By denying faith and truth, his own faith is in faithlessness, his own truth is non-truth. The man still walks a road, the road he has chosen, even if that road is grey. And so, we all need to decide. For those who are not interested in truth, they choose blindly. For those who are interested in truth, the task is to pursue it throughout life, to build a secure bridge unto action. And whilst truth itself is objective, and reality is objective, it is nonetheless true that this decision point is different for each man, and something that must be borne out within his soul. There are two more topics to discuss on this question of faith. One is about how, if we dig down, we can find a dividing point between two different types of faith that completely shape how we think about the world. And the other flows from the fact that Christians seem to describe faith differently to what we have seen. They don't speak of faith in terms of gaps and chances. They say that faith secured in God is a form of certain knowledge. This claim is completely compatible with the model of faith we have been discussing, and so we will unpack that more elsewhere. If anyone would like to learn with me, there is the TVC Academy, where I offer courses and private lessons on reasoning, language skills, and more. There is also TonyVCLow.com, where you can see my public profile, blog, books, and other works. For updates on my activity, you also have the option to subscribe to my mailing list. Thank you for your time.